Good afternoon and welcome to Lincoln City's pre-match show Matchday Live. The Imps making the long old trip to Plymouth, Argyle. Now, they may have dropped to second in midweek, but there's still plenty to be optimistic about, isn't it? And another jam-packed show coming up for you this afternoon as well. We'll be speaking to BBC Radio Lincolnshire summariser Mark Honan, a former Imp, of course, as well. We'll have the team news for you live at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And of course, we'll be talking about the big news. Michael Appleton putting pen to paper on a new 4-year deal. He'll be at the club until June 2025. Other good news in the shape of Anthony Scully and Remy Howarth as well, both signing new deals at the Imps. To discuss that with me and plenty more is the usual suspect, Gary Hutchinson. Gary, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Every so often the club throws up a night like Thursday, don't they? And just gives us some brilliant news to discuss. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, the good news kept on coming. I mean, obviously the headline is Michael Appleton signing a new deal. I think that's huge for the club. It's a real signal of intent from both parties, I think, as well, because Michael is an in-demand coach. He certainly will be if he keeps achieving what he's currently achieving at Lincoln. You know, if we were to be promoted, it would be unbelievable. So his stock will continue to rise. And obviously Anthony Scully, 12 goals this season, another huge capture. And a squad always needs players like Remy Howarth too, and Remy's a great character. We've spoken to him before, and he's a lovely lad. He's got plenty about him. So yeah, it was a great night for the club.
4-year deal, as I mentioned just there, Gary, for Michael. Were you pleasantly surprised when you saw the duration, if you like, on that? Because it's not something you see often in certainly in the EFL, is it? We know that Paul Lambert signed a 5-year deal with Ipswich Town, but other than that, deals like that are few and far between.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. I think it was interesting. I think the timing was very interesting as well, because there'd been quite a bit of speculation fueled by rubbish internet sites, but speculation that other clubs might be looking at him, and rightly so. I think the reason behind a length like that is it does offer stability. It will help when you're trying to attract players, because if somebody like Michael comes to you, knocks on your door as a player and says, come and play for me, you want to do it. If he does it and he's only got a year left on his deal, you might think twice about penning a 2 or 3 year deal yourself. If Michael's got a 4-year deal and he goes to a good player and says, come and play for me for 3 years, here's a 3-year deal, the guy will look and think, well, Michael's going to be there, I'll be there as well. So I think overall it just gives this huge air of stability around the management, around the coaching, and around the immediate future of the club.
Yeah, 8 days is a long time in football, isn't it? Because it was that pre-Wigan Athletic press conference 8 days ago where Michael was fielding questions on the Bristol City job, and then here we are, or 6 days later as it was on Thursday, and here we are talking about a new deal for him.
Yeah, it is. It's 8 days is a very, very long time in football. I confess we were on the Wigan show and there was some sort of mindless rumours going around at the time about Michael was going to Bristol City. And as a fan, I just got that massive sinking feeling, because the job he's done at the club has been nothing short of phenomenal. He's got a great team around him. It's not a one-man effort, but he's very much the focal point of everything at this football club. The manager is where the buck stops. So I think to go from that uncertainty 1 week ago to feeling as I do now, you're really secure. And I think we've got one of the brightest young managers. And despite the fact that he's been at sort of 4 other clubs, Michael is a young manager and a young coach. I think we've got one of the best in the business at the moment. It's just a great place to be in for us.
Yeah, Gary, let's have a look back at the midweek draw then against Swindon Town. I mean, we spoke to a Swindon fan before the game and he suggested to us that their side would take quite a hammering. I think he was bluffing because they played well, didn't they?
They didn't play badly. Yeah, I think they were better than many gave them credit for. But as we know, we didn't do ourselves any favours. We needed to start well. We didn't. So we gave them something to fight for. And I think they're the sort of side that would have crumbled had we scored. But once you give them a little bit of confidence, as we said pre-match, they've got good footballers at this level. They really have. But I think there was a case of us almost trying to beat ourselves a little bit. I think the fact that post-match there was quite a lot of dismay at how we'd played. Michael certainly wasn't happy either, and yet we came away with a draw. I think their fan was right. This was a winnable game for us, and we kind of cost ourselves, I think.
Michael's post-match interviews are always interesting, aren't they? But it certainly was after this game, and he said that his side's first-half performance was arrogant. What did you make when you were watching that interview that he did after the game? I mean, it was certainly very frank, wasn't it?
It was. I'm pleased you didn't make me talk about that moment right there. I can see how he meant arrogant. I don't think he meant arrogant individuals. I think the players felt that they could go out there, turn it on, and not have to work. I think that was my understanding of the word arrogant. And we couldn't do that. You can't do that against the likes of Jack Payne, Brett Pittman, and the boy they had out on the wing, who I think Ben from Swindon said that the lone player had done nothing, and he was then the best player on the pitch for them. So, yeah, I think Michael's always frank. What I like is he doesn't tend to call out individuals. If they've made a mistake, he'll say they know they've made a mistake. But he doesn't call out individuals in this squad. They are still a team. We'll be looking for a response almost certainly. But mark my words, we will need to be much, much better than that today.
Let's talk about the Morgan Rogers goal then. It was quite some finish, wasn't it? I mean, there's an argument that a top-level keeper saves it, but if you don't shoot, you don't score. And he caught it well. It's the driving run as well, isn't it, from Morgan? It shows how confident he is at the moment. Yeah,
100%. You're quite right. If you don't shoot, you don't score. I think that's a mantra Anthony Scully tends to live by, because that boy will shoot from anywhere. A decent keeper or a better keeper probably sees that a little earlier, but he was unsighted. I like Morgan Rogers. I think in flashes, he's been a top player for this football club. He's already got 3 goals behind him. He's a real danger. We've got 2 flair players. We've got Brennan Johnson as well, who's very, very similar. The key is to have them firing over 90 minutes and to get them into games where we are struggling, because I think players like Brennan and Morgan look absolutely brilliant when you're doing well, but when you're struggling, it kind of comes and goes in patches. And that's no criticism. That's just the type of player they are. They need the team around them to be playing well to create for them. But it was a good goal. It was an opportunistic goal. I did say I felt it was the sort of game Morgan Rogers might score in, and I think he'll get a few more before the end of the season.
Neil Carlton says, need a response today after Tuesday's result. Michael will demand it. David Johnson says, we're going to play on the front foot today, 3-1. And Jacob says he's going for 4-2 to the Imps today. Fingers crossed you're right indeed there, Jacob. Gary, let's have a look at the League One table then, because as I mentioned before, the Imps dropping to second in it, but they gained a point on Hull. It still makes for very good reading, doesn't it?
Yeah, all the doom and gloom after Swindon, and we're still 6 points clear of the nearest team that have played the same amount of games. Doncaster could probably catch us up a little bit, but again, they've kind of tailed off as well. So it makes very good reading. I think when you get over that initial shock of not being top, because there's a kudos with being top, we're still in a very, very good position for automatic promotion. What we've got to do is put the so-called poor results behind us. And let's remember, these poor results are draws. They're not defeats. I think we're unbeaten in 5. The only team that we've lost to in my recent memory was Doncaster Rovers. So it isn't terrible at all. I think when fans are getting down and dismayed at the fact that you've been knocked off the top of League One and you're still unbeaten, you're not in a bad place at all, not really.
How concerned are you about the likes of Portsmouth and Sunderland there, Gary? Because Hull has been the team that we've talked about throughout the course of the season. We know Peterborough is certainly rocking and rolling at the moment, but the likes of Pompey and Sunderland in particular, I know they're 7 points behind, but they're on quite a run. We know just how good that squad is as well. Are they part of the automatic promotion conversation?
Yeah, 100%. Anybody on there from 7th upwards is still part of the conversation. I think in reality, Sunderland, perhaps for me, over Portsmouth. Portsmouth, I think, are a side who are still going through a transition. Obviously, Kenny Jackett, he's not well at the moment, so he's not with the club. I think that we may see them tumble away. They've got quality, without a doubt. But I think if we were to keep up picking points, albeit the odd draw here and there mixed in with wins and perhaps a defeat, Portsmouth might struggle to catch us. Sunderland are a side I see surging through. I called Peterborough at the beginning of the season. I think if I was to pick 3 to challenge for the top 2 positions at this moment in time, it would be us, Peterborough, obviously, and Sunderland as well. They are looking very, very good.
Going to be speaking to BBC Radio Lincolnshire summariser Mark Hone very shortly. In the meantime, let's get the pre-match thoughts of Lincoln City attacking maestro Brennan Johnson. This is what he had to say in his pre-match press conference.
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, there's loads of games been going on, but I think it's going to be tough for everyone. But I think the boys have done well so far, trying to stay as fresh as we can. Yeah, just everyone's trying to do the best they can.
And as a young player, you must be benefiting as well from the amount of games you've had this year.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely the main thing that I was after this season, playing loads of games. playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, just trying to get that experience of what it's properly like to play men's football. So yeah, I'm delighted to play this many games.
As much as you wanted, I guess, to go and test yourself at Championship level, was there a little bit of relief as well that you wasn't recalled by Forest?
Yeah, I think so, because it was just the uncertainty about whether I was going to go straight back in the team. And I think the manager made that quite obvious, that if I went back, I wouldn't obviously be 100% in the team, because I don't think he can promise anyone that. So I think me staying here was probably the best option for me, because I'm still playing loads of games.
And how have you found League One level?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been challenging at times. I think you come against complete opposite in teams. Some weeks you go against some teams you like to play long, and then some teams you try and play as well. So I think it's good. Definitely helps your development, playing against different teams and seeing how to cope with it.
Last couple of matches, we've seen you in a central midfield role. Is that a position you've played as a youngster, or is this something new?
Yeah, I think it's something that I played as a youngster. I played quite a lot of positions growing up, but I think that was probably the biggest period. Before coming here, I played in that position. Then before, I used to play a bit higher up. So all of it's quite natural. But yeah, I'd say in midfield probably the most natural.
Yeah, Brendan Johnson giving his pre-match thoughts to BBC Radio Lincolnshire's Rob Makepeace there. Gary, let's stick with that theme of Brendan playing in central midfield then. It's a position that he seems to have taken to quite well, but he has played lots of games lately. On that basis, do you expect him to play in the same position this afternoon?
It's hard to say. Probably, if it were me, and I'm not a football manager, I'm merely somebody that sits around and talks about it as if I know better, which I don't. If it were me, I would probably give him either a rest or play him out wide today specifically. Because Plymouth play 3-5-2, they've got some great central midfielders. Whoever's playing the six, which you would expect is going to be George Grant, is going to have his hands full with Danny Mayer. So I think that in terms of a working midfield, somebody like James Jones alongside Conor McGrandles might give you a little bit more box to box. When you play Johnson in central midfield, I think what we're looking to bring in there is that element of creativity, that spark of something different, which you lose when George Grant does not play in the kind of the two in the attacking midfield position. What Johnson does have, or what Brendan does have rather, is he has great flexibility and he can adapt. And also you can change shape very quickly during the game with him as well, which I think is important. If we absolutely needed to, he could be pushing out wide. He runs on probably ahead of Tom Hoppe. You're expecting him to come and arrive in the area as well. So from an attacking point of view, potentially, yes, you would like to see him starting in the midfield. From a defensive point of view, I could see James Jones starting alongside McGrandles.
Interesting to hear Brendan talking about the potential, the possibility of going back to Nottingham Forest in January. But he said, look, he wasn't guaranteed first team football, and he pretty much is guaranteed first team football here with a team that are going great guns and fighting for promotion to the Championship. So, when you're listening to him talk like that, Gary, I mean, honesty is the best policy, isn't it? And we've been the beneficiaries of that with the relationship between the club and Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, 100%. Look, we chatted to his dad the other week, and he said he didn't feel that there was ever an opportunity that, ever a serious chance that Brennan was going back. And I think Tyler Walker was a typical example. Last season, he was recalled by Forest. I think he played 2 games and was sold. Brennan won't want that. He'll want to go back to Forest and be a part of their setup. He's come through their youth system, and he's going to want to go back and be a part of their first team in the Championship. The best way to do that is impress here. The best way to be a part of Wales's Euro 2020 squad is to be here, playing regularly and scoring goals. So it's nice to hear him say that he can see the benefit of that. I like to hear Brennan talk as well. For a young man who's got quite big connections, we've seen him sat with David Beckham. There's no airs and graces with him or anything like that. He's very down to earth and very honest as well. So he's a big benefit to our squad, certainly over the coming few weeks.
These are pictures coming to you from Home Park. We know it's sunny in Lincoln, but it's certainly sunny there as well, Gary. It's another one of those days, isn't it? An away day, a long trip down the motorway. There's no doubt about that, but it's just another one that you'd love to be on. Yeah,
it's a weekender, isn't it? When you go to Plymouth, it's get down there. You can get away with taking your partner if they're not overly keen on football, booking into a nice guest house. I think I've been to Plymouth once, if I remember. We always lose there, unfortunately. Although I think when we get Mark on, Mark might have played in the game there where we drew. I might be wrong. So yeah, it's it's a perfect day for football, isn't it? The sun's shining. It's not too warm. It's just, we say it every week. It's just a shame that there aren't 500-600 Lincoln City fans in Plymouth right now getting ready for the game.
Well, you mentioned in there, Gary, Mark Hone, if I take away that, yeah, there we are. You mentioned Mark Hone before, so delighted to say that Mark joins us now. Let's bring him into the action. Mark, lovely to see you. Before we talk about what you did or didn't play in that game at Home Park, first of all, how are you coping with the madness of the last year? Everything going well?
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I think, not being able to go to certain games, obviously with BBC Radio Lincolnshire now, we can't travel to away games, and that's, we're watching it on the screen like everybody else. So that's actually been quite difficult. But I just can't wait for the fans to get back into the grounds. I mean, obviously with Lincoln on the run they are, the way they're playing, Sam, you're just desperate for that to happen. So it's been okay, but like everybody else, it's been weird at times. But I have been privileged to be able to attend games, which a lot of people haven't.
Yeah, and we'll come on to that shortly and what you've made of the Imps so far this season. Got a couple of pictures of you here, Mark. What was that promotion campaign like? Tell us about it. 1998. Because of course we've got a team here now that are fighting for promotion as well. So I guess the burning question is, what does it take to get promoted?
Good manager. I know people might disagree with that with John Beck, but certainly a good manager and a bit of team spirit. But also you need individuals as well that can just turn a game on its head. You might be struggling in a game and one bit of individual brilliance, can actually turn a game. We saw that against Wigan, didn't we? George Grant's pass and Tom Hopper's great feat to be able to open his body up to then slot it into the top corner. So them individual bits of brilliance, but a collective team spirit and a well-organised manager that knows what he's doing. So I think that's what we had at that time, and that's what I'm seeing in this current Lincoln City squad.
Brilliant photo as well. Sorry, Gary. I was going to say, Gary reliably informed me that this was off the back of Manchester City. Gary, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, hi Mark. Obviously, this I think was the Manchester City game, the famous 4-1 win. You played in quite a lot of big cup games for Lincoln. Obviously, Southampton as well, away at Main Road. Which one stands out for you over all the others?
There's two. I think probably the three games you've mentioned there. The two against Man City, but the one with Southampton at the Dell was for me just absolutely fantastic. I mean, it was actually at the Dell, the old ground, the Dell, Southampton's old ground, full house. It was absolutely packed, and it was only a third or fourth round, Liquid's Cup tie, I think it was then back in those days. So a fantastic atmosphere, and to come off the pitch, Gareth got the last. Well, I think he equalised in about the 84th, 85th minute. And I had obviously scored one goal. I had a hand in that equaliser as well. So personally, that was a fantastic game to be involved in. Great travelling support midweek. I mean, that way in was absolutely rammed. I don't know if you were there, Gary. You might have been. But certainly it was just a fantastic occasion. And one of them games where, I'll never get tired of reliving it in my own head, if that makes sense, even though I haven't watched it for a while. So, but certainly the two games against Manchester City as well were really good. I mean, Georgie Kincladze, me and Terry Fleming played central midfield at Main Road. And for the first 20 minutes, I kid you not, we didn't touch it, didn't touch the ball. We got nowhere near Georgie Kincladze, and me and Terry were quite fit, weren't we? We were up and downers, we were, aggressive, we were, central midfield players. We had a go, put it bluntly, and we couldn't get anywhere near him for 20 minutes. And I remember looking at Terry from a goal kick or wherever it was, and he couldn't speak and I couldn't speak because we were absolutely breathing out of our backsides, to put it bluntly. We just had literally 20 minutes of running after him. So to come away with a 1-0 win, I think Grant was absolutely outstanding in that game. Grant Brown, legend that he is. I think he was outstanding in that game, and so Barry Richardson as well. But yeah, we talk about individual performances, but collectively that team was probably the best team I played in terms of spirit, a willingness to win. John Beck kind of did very well, I think, in isolating us and him. So there was no sort of he wasn't a manager that really got involved in terms of personal stuff, this, that, and the other. It was very much he was the manager, you were the players. This is what we're doing, and whether you liked him, loved him, hated him, he got us all playing in a way that just won football matches, and that's how we got promoted. But certainly, those 3 games, probably the biggest disappointment for me was the Southampton replay, and the infamous dive.
Ostenstadt.
Yes. Yeah.
Gary was going to mention that as well before. I think he wanted to ask you about that. Didn't
I
you,
was
Gary?
quite close to it, and it was a blatant dive. He just dived. And, as much as I think referees have a really difficult job, they're so difficult nowadays, and wish we had VAR, because that might have actually gone in our favour. But no, it was really, really a difficult game because we were 1-0 up. I wouldn't say we were comfortable, but we looked like we could probably maybe see it out. And that's the feeling I had on the pitch, is we can actually see this out. And then that decision changed the whole ethos of the game, the whole dynamics of the game, and you felt it on the pitch as well. And yeah, it was a really, really tough take, that was, in the dressing room.
Mark, you may have seen some nice comments coming through. Shane said there, it's nice to hear Mark on BBC Links, good summariser as well. Tell us about summarising on BBC Radio Lincolnshire. How do you find it? What's the skill set behind it? Because obviously, myself, Gary Hutchinson, we're not match summarisers. Gary's a brilliant pundit, but I guess it is a different skill, isn't it? So give us a bit of an insight if you can.
It is. I fell into it by chance. They were doing like you were talking about, the promotion side that I was involved in. They were doing Rob Makepeace at the radio station was doing a celebratory kind of promotion winning team, and he got a lot of us into the studio. And I remember just talking as I do, and just rambling on about stuff that was happening. And I think Rob just said to me, "Do you fancy coming on to the Friday night football show that he does on a Friday between 6 and 7 on BBC Lincolnshire?" And it's a really good show. And I did a couple of them, and they kind of snowballed from there. And that's when they asked me if I wanted to go and report on games. Now, I've done a lot of reporting on football matches before I kind of did the summarising. And it's 2 different skill sets. With commentating on a game, I find a lot harder than I do summarising. To give you an example, my wife won't sit and watch a football match with me. She loves football. She's a Hull supporter. I can hear a few boos going on already there. But she won't watch a game with me because all I do is talk about what's happening. And I think that's infectious. When I summarise a game, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm trying to get a feel for the game. I'm trying to get a feel for the players. Doing a bit of research on obviously the home players, Lincoln City players, but you need to do a little bit on the away players and just kind of know what their dangers are. Like today, Plymouth, they've got a 21-year-old who's scoring goals for fun. Luke Jeffcott, I think his name is. I think he's the 3rd leading goal scorer in the league. I think there's only Charlie Wyke and Clark Harris above him. So you're talking that, and they're 12th in the league. So, today Lincoln have really got to be on their mettle with him. Certainly 2 centre-halves, whoever plays centre-halves, have got to look after him. So, it's just about doing that sort of thing. And again, as you can probably tell, I like talking about football, and I think that really does help. So a little bit of insight, a little bit of knowledge as an ex-player, I think helps because you pick up on the atmosphere of a game, what's happening in the game, the feeling of a game. You can kind of not second guess what's going to happen, but you kind of had, you can feel that something might happen at some point, and it might be X, Y, and Z. It might be this might happen or that might happen. So, it's very difficult. The thing that I've previously mentioned was watching a game on a TV screen is really, really difficult. I find that, I've done a few now with did the Lincoln Hull one, Lincoln Gillingham game, and it's very, very difficult at times when things are happening quickly on a TV screen to pick up who the players are, who's done what, it's just your kind of knowledge of where players are on the pitch as to where they are in terms of what's just happened in a phase of play. Say, for instance, a cross has come in, somebody's done something, and you're just trying to not guess, but you're trying to assume where players might well be. So sometimes you get it wrong, and it makes you look silly at times. But if you do your research and do bits and pieces, you can actually, not wing it so much, but you can actually, talk about the game and get the right, the right punditry across. So it's difficult. It is difficult.
What about today's game then, Mark? How do you see it going then? You obviously mentioned one of the young lads for Plymouth there as well. Gary's talked about the formation that he expects Plymouth to play as well. How do you expect the Imps to line up?
I think he'll go exactly the same. I don't think he'll change his system. It'll just be the personnel. So, Lincoln are better away from home, aren't they? The counter attacks, the transition from picking the ball up and a cross comes in. George Grant picks the ball up and he'll set somebody away. And it's about Brennan Johnson, Rogers and Scully getting themselves on a half turn in between the lines and then just taking the game to Plymouth. So, it might be a patient one for today. We saw that at Wigan. It's just, I think Lincoln are better away from home. I think they struggle to break teams down at times at home, but certainly when there's a little bit more space in between the lines when teams come onto them, when they're away from home, I find Lincoln play a little bit better. And the games I've seen, certainly, the transition from defending to attack and putting teams under pressure is fantastic. And with those players that have that pace, they're just so exciting to watch when it clicks. I know that they've struggled recently. I'm sure you'll be speaking about that. I know that 3 draws in the last 5 games, but they're unbeaten in 5 games. And if you're struggling in a period of time and over 5 games you've not been beaten, that shows that they can dig in and get results no matter how they're playing. So I expect them. It'll be a tough game today. Like we just spoke about, Jeff Cott's got 18 goals all season. They've got a midfield player called Connor Grant who's got 8 assists. So you know them dynamics are there. So, and like Gary says, the midfield supplying a young lad who's absolutely on fire. Lincoln have really got to be on a medal today.
Just finally, Mark, we've had a few questions and comments coming in, a couple along the same theme, which is one from being from Neil Carlton. It says, "Ask Mark who he supports." I'm intrigued.
Right, I'm a Liverpool supporter. I have been since I was about probably 5 or 6, watching a 1974 FA Cup final between Liverpool and Newcastle. So I'm a Liverpool supporter, always have been, through the good and the bad times. But also I have a little soft spot for Crystal Palace because that was my first professional club. So all my schoolmates who I go and see on a regular basis, they're still, involved in Palace. They go and watch. They've got season tickets. So I've still got a little bit of a soft spot for them. And obviously Lincoln, because I live here now. I moved my family up when I came up here, and just love it. Love the city. I love the club when I play for it. So yeah, I've got 3 teams. If you can have 3, are you allowed 3 teams?
You're an ex-professional footballer, Mark. You're allowed as many teams as you like.
Yeah. The other clubs I play for, yeah, I keep an eye out. I'm a little bit disappointed what's going on at Southend at the moment. And one of my former non-league clubs, Gillingham, at the bottom of the National League South. So I'm a little bit, come on, pick yourselves up kind of thing. But no, they're the 3 main ones I kind of have a look out for.
Mark, we've got about a minute to go until today's live team news. So we're going to let you get off and get settled and enjoy the game. Really appreciate you joining us on Matchday Live. Great to have
Thanks for the invite, lads. It's been brilliant. And I'm hearing such good things about this podcast. And yeah, long may it continue. Well done. It's really good. Really good.
Thanks, Mark. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon. That's the thoughts of former Lincoln City man Mark Hone, of course, BBC Radio Lincolnshire summariser as well. We're approaching 2 o'clock, not quite there yet. So just going to go to Gary Hutchinson for his pre-team news thoughts, if you like, Gary. You don't have to run us through the whole team, but do you expect any big changes this afternoon?
It wouldn't surprise me if there was a personnel change of some description, but we'll go 4-3-3. It's our tried and tested method. And if there is a change, it will probably be 1 or 2 players. Wouldn't surprise me if the fullbacks don't change. He seems to like to rotate those, Michael does. So we shall see.
Let's see if you're right. It's time for today's Lincoln City team news to face Plymouth Argyle. Yeah, so Michael Appleton makes a couple of changes to that side that drew against Swindon Town at the LNER Stadium in the midweek. Alex Palmer's in goal. Regan Poole plays. Adam Jackson is alongside Lewis Monsmith. Teo Eden is at left back. George Grant, the captain, starts alongside Conor McGrandles and Brennan Johnson. Still no Liam Bridcut in the Matchday squad. It is then Morgan Rogers, Anthony Scully, who signed that new deal the other day, and Tom Hopper up front. Long, Sanders, Jones, Archibald, Bramall, Ioma, and Sean Rowan as well. Gary, we'll start with the back then. A couple of changes have made. Regan Poole starts at right back.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Paul. I think of the winter signings, he's probably the one that looks like he's settled quickest, which isn't a surprise because he's the one that's played League One football regularly this season. I also think he's going to be a little bit more of a goal threat than TJ Ioma. I really like Ioma. This isn't a slur on him whatsoever. But we saw Paul get forward and put one wide. I think it was against Wigan, wasn't it, through the player's legs and just wide of the post. So I like Regan Paul. I think he'll be a big player for this club. As for Teo Eden, I thought if the game were going to change at all on Tuesday night, Teo Eden was going to be the catalyst for that. I thought he had a great game when he came on. He's gone through a real journey this season. He started on the fringes. For me, he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet now. Really like Teo.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not only that, but we know how well he can play at central midfield as well as the quite excellent left back that he seemingly turned into.
Yeah, it shows he's adaptable, shows he's flexible, it shows he's got a good attitude because he's willing to change his game. I prefer him in central midfield, but it would be a brave man who doesn't pick him at left back now, because I think he's really grown into the role. He shows a willingness to get forward. I think he's tenacious when he gets back as well. And I think it's notable if you look, for instance, at the goal that came on Tuesday night with the Alex Palmer error. It has kind of come from that attacking right. I don't think teams get quite as much change out of Teo Eden as they have been doing out of Cohen Bramall. I know Cohen will grow into the role, but I do like to see Teo starting there.
Going to be speaking to Archie from Argyle Army, the Plymouth Argyle supporter, very shortly. In the meantime, let's get the pre-match thoughts from the manager who signed that new long-term deal earlier this week. Here's Michael Appleton.
First off, Michael, you expecting to see a big reaction in training today after what happened on Tuesday?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Obviously, emotions aside, my thoughts are still the same, but I think it's ultimately it's a point from a point that, all sort of things considered, we probably didn't deserve. Not that Swindon were good or very good on the night, just some of the outrageous errors and mistakes that we sort of made on the evening.
Plymouth this weekend, obviously you've already lost to them in the cup down at Home Park. How difficult will it be?
It'll be a tough game, but I thought we were brilliant in the FA Cup, for being honest. Apart from score, I thought the performance was... I bet the performance at Home Park in the Cup was probably one of our top 10 performances this season in terms of how we played. So I'd much take right now a lesser performance than the 3 points, if that's what you're asking. For as disappointed as it was the other night, if we play like that and take the 3 points, I'll still be happy. But it is going to be difficult. Obviously, they had a tough game against Peterborough midweek. But prior to that, am I right in thinking prior to that they were one of the unbeaten sides since the new year? Yeah, so they're obviously on a decent vein of form. So it's a good pitch, which helps. We're delighted. Big pitch, nice surface. So that will help. Hopefully no wind, and it should be a good game of football.
Yeah, Michael Appleton speaking to BBC Radio Lincolnshire's Rob Makepeace there. Gary, obviously that interview I think was done before he signed the new deal. Obviously we spoke to him on Thursday night to get all thoughts on that. In terms of the rest of the Lincoln City team news this afternoon, Gary, we've not mentioned the front three or the front four, with Brennan Johnson playing in midfield. We talked about him in the first part of this show. You said that you thought he may well get a rest this afternoon, but he is starting.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good footballer and he can change games. We saw that with the run-in for the penalty. And when him and Rodgers combine, when it clicks, I don't think there's any better kind of attacking pairing at all. It does surprise me a little bit because I think it's going to be a really tough afternoon for our midfield, really tough. Plymouth kind of, they flood that area. They're very compact at times. They like to control and dictate play. We know how Ryan Lowe likes to play his football. He plays really good, expansive football as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Brennan adapts to that. At the same time, if we're on the front foot, and as Michael Appleton said, if we're getting in the lines and finding those gaps and spaces, there is no better player than Brennan. If I'm honest, I think he's not been at 100% over the last 3 or 4 weeks, but he will probably click again very soon. And I don't think Plymouth fans were huge Brennan fans either. If I remember, there was quite a furore over there over a penalty that he won against them at our place. So it could be a big afternoon for him.
I think we've got Archie from Argyle Army on the line. Hopefully he's outside, so hopefully his connection holds up okay. Rocking the Juventus training top by the looks of it as well, Archie. Where's the Plymouth shirt?
I don't know. It's in the wash, to be honest with you. Completely gone.
What do you make of today's starting 11 then, Archie? Because we're getting reports that Jeffcott's on the bench. What do you make of that then? This is it. Cooper, Watts, Aimson, Edwards the captain, Hardy, Mayer, Grant, Forner, Ennis, Lewis and Apoku as well. And as you can see there, it's McCormick, Reeves, Moore, Lolas, Kamara, Woods and Jeffcott on the bench. So 18 goals this season and your star man doesn't start.
Yeah, very surprising. Obviously, with Adam Lewis as well as another one to pick out. Adam Lewis has come on for Grant in that left wing back role, so it looks like Grant's going to be moved into the left centre mid role. And yeah, obviously without our main man Jeffcott up top, I guess he's had a bit of a sort of a lack of goals recently. I think in his last 3 he hasn't scored any. Obviously he's third top goal scorer in League One, I believe, at the moment, just behind Clark Harris. But yeah, I think it wasn't really a surprise. Really, we saw it coming. It's definitely. It shows what Rhino wants. He wants the goals. He's changing it around every so often. So I think it's a good choice to give Jeffcott that bit of a rest because he's played so many minutes recently, 90 on 90, and it's just I think it's probably time to bring Hardy and Ennis up top in the team.
3-0 defeat to Peterborough then midweek. I think I can safely speak on behalf of every Lincoln City fan saying that we had one eye on that game and we certainly were supporting Argyle. What happened in that game? I guess you just came up against a pretty good Plymouth. Pretty good Peterborough, I should say, side.
Yeah, first half we were good. We looked solid. Obviously Peterborough are never going to be an easy match at all. Obviously they're top of the league now, and it was going to be a difficult tie going into. Obviously Clark Harris up top, their top goal scorer in League One at the moment, as well as obviously top goal scorer for them. And we sort of knew he was going to be a threat. Obviously he didn't really pose that much of a threat on the night. I thought first half, I said we dealt with it well. We looked solid at the back, but then from the 50-minute mark onwards, really we started to fall off and. Just looked poor, really. I think we didn't really have anything going forward. Defensively, we're still throwing bodies on the line. Pokey's been superb all season, was superb in that game as well, but just wasn't enough to at least try and grab a point out of it. Which, if you look at the stats wise, it probably would have been a fair game if it was a draw in the end. Really, like a 1-1 draw, would have taken that. Obviously, it's a very difficult side, and our home form is good at the moment. So hopefully today will be a little bit of a different result.
I think Gary might have a question for you. Gary?
Yeah, Archie, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if we stop Danny Mayer, do we stop Plymouth?
Yeah, probably. Danny Mayer is the heart of it. I don't know if you guys noticed, Kamara's on the bench as well today. He's a playmaker as well. I don't know if you've seen the reviews online. I think Danny Mayer and Kamara are the two threats. So I think once you stop Danny Mayer today, I think if you do stop him, then I think you guys certainly have a chance. So I said our home form's quite good. When Mayer's been playing at home as well, he's been superb. He's not obviously had that much of a goal contribution side of things this season, but if we do talk about the assists and the plays and those side of things, he certainly has been influential as that sort of number 10 role.
A word on Adam Lewis as well. You mentioned him before, Liverpool Academy graduate. I hate to use that cliche, but I will anyway. He's got a wand of a left foot. What have you made of his impact so far? Will he be on free kick duty, corner duty as well? I presume he probably will, unless you've got, obviously, Danny Mayer probably as well is one of those, but certainly from a left footer's perspective.
Yeah, we haven't really seen too much of him because he's been used as really a sort of 75th minute sub as such. But he's a very good player. Obviously, it's a Liverpool loanee. He's very talented. Obviously, you've seen him in a few FA Cups for Liverpool. He hasn't really made that much of an impact this season, to be honest. But that's probably because he hasn't had the game time. So seeing him start is brilliant. He scored 1 goal against Sunderland in a very big win. But yeah, I think Adam Lewis will be influential. I think on free kicks wise, I think Connor Grant maybe on the free kicks. I think he scored a beautiful free kick at home against someone in the FA Cup. I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was you guys. I think it was another team in the FA Cup. But yeah, he certainly is a threat down that left side. But I think the side we really need to be sort of focusing on today, from the attacking and defensive perspective, is the right side. I think the right side is our weakest. Obviously, bringing in Edwards today as well, instead of borrowing more, basically bringing it more defensively. So hopefully, for the defensive side of things, that might benefit us a little bit more, because we've knocked down that side with Aimson on the right centre back role, and then more on the right wing back role. It's been quite poor, and it's been quite easy for other teams to attack, especially Lincoln, to be honest with you, at home and away.
Sounds like it's all kicking off, Archie, so we won't keep you for too long. Looks like you're going to have a kickabout straight after this as well. Before we let you go, Ryan Lowe recently signed a new deal. You may or may not have heard that our manager, Michael Appleton, has signed a new long-term deal as well. Great, isn't it, to see young English managers given an opportunity, but not only given an opportunity, but given the opportunity to really try and build something. And clearly Ryan Lowe is doing that at Plymouth.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. Managers like these, especially some of the young ones, even like Wayne Rooney up in the Championship, and obviously Appleton as well. Appleton's a great manager. I know he's been around the sort of the managing scene for a few years. Same with Ryan. Obviously, Ryan started at Bury, came to Plymouth, fully just deserved the extension of his contract. He's been superb for us. A very good manager overall, and I think he certainly does deserve that sort of crucial extension for him and obviously his team as well. Stephen Schumacher as well as Kevin on the sort of sidelines as well.
Archie, great to have you on the show as ever. We'll let you go and have a kickabout with the dog. Is it as well?
Yeah, got a few dogs on the beach. We're gonna sort of see some of my friends social distance, having a little bit of a kickabout. So yeah, happy days. Some
life, isn't it? Archie, really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, mate. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Cheers. That's Plymouth Argyle fan Archie from the Argyle Army blog. Looks pretty. If we didn't know it already, it looks pretty sunny down there, doesn't it, Gary?
Yeah, was it fast forward a little bit as well? I was struggling to keep up. He talks at quite a pace. So, yeah, it looks very nice. Nice day down on the Devon coast.
Yeah, who knows what technology is capable of these days. We had the virtual world, didn't we, on Thursday night with Collab, and now we're managing to somehow speed people up when they're talking whilst they're having a kickabout with the dog outside. Quite the world. From the Plymouth perspective then, Gary, Jeff got on the bench, as we mentioned there. Archie didn't seem too surprised about too surprised about that.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, which comes as a surprise when you look at his goal scoring record.
It does, and Camara as well. If that's the boy, I think it is. He was at Crawley, really kind of talented midfield player. Niall Ennis, we've seen before. I think he was on loan at Doncaster. May even have scored against us last season. I actually quite like Ryan Hardy. He was, again, I may be wrong, but I think he was at Rangers and went to Blackpool before he's wound up at Plymouth. So they've got decent players, but it is quite a shock. It's almost like a Lincoln City team popping up and George Grant being on the bench for no discernible reason. So Ryan Lowe is a canny manager, though. He's not going to make basic managerial errors at all. So he'll have a game plan today. What it looks like to me, it almost looks as if it's stop Lincoln playing as much as it is kind of come and attacking us. Maybe he's looked at our away form and thought, well, let's not play as the home team because that's what Lincoln kind of they thrive on when they come away and they're playing against a team who wants to come and attack them. Let's treat it like an away game. Let's go there and play as if we're playing at Sinsel Bank and maybe try and turn the form book on its head. That's a potential thought of Ryan Lowe's.
Nice to hear from a Plymouth Argyle fan. David Marks getting in contact saying, welcome to Home Park. Good luck from a Plymouth Argyle fan. David may want to turn off for the next 2 minutes or so because we're going to bring you highlights of what happened when the two sides met back in the league at the LNER Stadium a few months ago. Yeah, good night at the LNER Stadium, wasn't it? And of course, Brennan Johnson's first goal for the Imps as well. Gary, it feels like watching that back that both sides, in fairness to Plymouth as well, have evolved since then. And certainly Brennan Johnson himself has evolved since then. We've seen it with our own eyes.
Yeah, he has. Looking back at that penalty, I remember at the time thinking, maybe not. Looking back at that, you think, absolutely not. But the clips don't show him being fouled and staying on his feet a couple of seconds earlier as part of the same move. It's hard to say how much Plymouth have evolved, because although I've kept an eye out for the results and read the reports, I haven't seen them all that much. I think Danny Mayer may have gone off in that game a little early. Now, I might be incorrect about that. I remember Camera, I think, coming on as well. So I think there was an element of them settling into League One. I think they've certainly done that now. I think Ryan Lowe is a very, very good manager. He plays a very good style of football. He's a bit of a nemesis of ours, having been at Bury as well. At one point, we were the anti-Plymouth. I remember they were the anti-Bury. Bury were billed as the team who were great in possession, and we were the team that were great out of it. Well, that's very different now. Both teams are very good in possession. I think in terms of our evolution, yes, we have a little since then. When you look at some of the patterns of play there, I think that we were still very swift in the attack. We still created good opportunities. We should probably have scored 2 more goals, certainly the one in the first half. Where the ball came back to Hopper should have gone in, and we should have been 1-0 up very, very early. So I would expect a very similar game, if I'm honest, as well.
Let me just run you through the Lincoln City starting 11 if you're only just joining us now. Michael Appleton making a couple of changes to the side that drew with Swindon on Tuesday night at the LNER. Alex Palmer in goal, Regan Poole, Adam Jackson, Lewis Monsma and Teo Eden. They make up the back 4. George Grant is the captain once again this afternoon with no Liam Bridcut involved. He's alongside Conor McGrandles and Brennan Johnson. Morgan Rogers, Anthony Scully and Tom Hopper make up the Imps attacking front 3. Long, Sanders, Jones, Archibald, Bramall, Ioma and Rowan on the bench. Gary, let's talk about Anthony Scully then, who signed a new deal on Thursday night. He joined myself alongside Michael Appleton and Jez George and Tom Hopper actually on the fans forum. He looked absolutely delighted at the time. It was great to speak to Anthony, and one of the questions I put to Michael was quite simply, you play well, you work hard, you get rewarded with it, and that's exactly what's happened to Anthony.
Yeah, it is 100%. I think his goals record is very, very impressive for a player who, let's not forget, is in his first full season of league football. He only joined us obviously in January and previously only under 23 at West Ham. I really like Anthony Scully because I think he's a rough diamond, and when you've got a player who's got 12 goals already for you, that gives him a huge scope to improve. He likes to shoot from anywhere. He reminds me very much of Simon Yeo. When Yeo first came to this club, he would hit the ball from anywhere. If he got a glimpse of the net, he would put the ball towards it. It didn't always come off. And I think with Anthony Scully, there's an element of that as well. He's probably had more shots than anybody else in the squad. And if you shoot, eventually you score. And I think that's shown. I think he's got to develop. He's got to evolve. He's a young player. I think positionally, sometimes he's found just slightly out. But for a young man, he's had a really impressive season. I was utterly delighted to see him sign a new deal. Not least because I called him in 4-4-2 as the one to watch this season. And early on with Rowan and Monsma, I thought I was going to be left with egg on my face. So delighted with that. Cheers, Anthony.
Well, that will be getting framed, will it? That page from 4-4-2, Gary, the way Anthony's going at the moment.
Well, to be honest, without being big-headed, I made quite a few predictions at the minute. I might need to build another shed if I'm going to frame everything.
Not want to blow your own trumpet, are you?
Never, mate. No.
No, it's brilliant to have Anthony Scully sign his new deal and be rewarded for such hard work. We've got Cods Vlogs joining us this afternoon. Now, Cods Vlogs has joined us a few times on Matchday Live so far this season. It's Ben Natman. He's also part of the Third Tier podcast or blog. It's just getting set up. I'm sure Ben will have all the details for you, but it's a really interesting read, and it will be an interesting listen as well about all things League One. He knows his stuff. Let's bring him in now because Ben Natman joins us. Ben, nice to see you. You're going to take us through some of the League One games this afternoon, aren't you? So, Peterborough versus Wigan, first of all. Peterborough won their last 5, as we well know. Wigan have lost 3 out of their last 4, but they did beat Bristol Rovers the other day. How do you see this one going?
Well, one thing I'll give to Wigan, I think there's teams down there, I think Swindon are struggling. I think Northampton will go down, and Burton are fighting for that. Wigan have got this mentality where they are being wrote off every week, but they keep fighting, and I love that about them. Peterborough are a very good side, and it's going to be a very interesting game. Obviously, Peterborough on fire. This is the year they should go up. I do fancy a Peterborough win. I think it'd be tight. I think it'd be either 2-0 or 2-1, but we're going to carry on fighting, and it wouldn't surprise me if Wigan took it, down to the last 3 or 4 games, which, is a big achievement for them considering what they had at the start of the year.
Certainly is. Gary, would you go along with that? I mean, do you think that Wigan can get anything against Peterborough this afternoon?
Possibly. I think Ben's spot on. I like Wigan as well. I like their attitude. I think they've actually got the players capable of staying up. I agree that I think Northampton are going down. But I said on the podcast earlier this week, I actually think that Wigan and Burton will both stay up. It's not an easy tie for Peterborough. Not an easy tie at all. I can see Ben pulling a face there at Burton as well.
I agree with you. I think Burton will stay up. I think the way that they've got, this manager bounce, to keeping a couple of clean sheets, which they weren't doing already. The beaten side, they did the double over Charlton, in the week 2-1 win. They brought a couple of players in, that Fondup, they brought in as well. They brought a lad in that was on, I think, I spell at Oldham as well. So I agree. I think Burton will get out of it. I really do.
I'm going to ask Gary about Ipswich versus Doncaster. Ipswich, I believe, if my maths is right, which usually isn't, but Ipswich may well drop out of the top half of the table if they lose this afternoon and results go against them, which seems, in one sense unthinkable considering the fact that they've been in and around that top 6, top 7 for quite a while.
Yeah, they've got a great squad, Ipswich, and it just isn't firing at the moment. The news in midweek that there may be a takeover and Paul Lambert may be on his way out. I know it's speculation, but that might actually fuel the squad, because I actually don't think 1 or 2 of those players are playing for Paul Lambert. We know John Nolan and Caden Jackson have been banished to the under-23s or the reserves or wherever it is. I think he's lost the dressing room. I think that is painfully evident in many of their performances and many of their recent results. However, if there is thought that takeover is going ahead, and if the players are under the impression that they now need to kind of up their game for potentially Paul Cook coming in, I think that could be a tough game for Doncaster. Donny are on the slide a little bit as well. We saw them get a couple of decent results. They beat us when we should have beaten them, and then they did the same thing against Oxford. I can actually see Ipswich taking that game today.
Interesting stuff. Ben, I'm going to ask you about Wimbledon versus Hull. Grant McCann has come out and said this week that Tom Eaves is back in the squad, which is no doubt a big boost for him. I know Hull beat Wigan 5-0, around about 10 days ago. But, they, in one sense, they have been lacking a second striker, if you like. Which way do you see this game going? Wimbledon Hull, I should say.
Well, Wimbledon, new managers come in. They lost last week, and they got a good win in the week at Plough Lane, and that'll give them the world of confidence. Hull again lost. I think Hull have been. I don't think they'll get the top 2. I keep thinking, will they? Won't they? Then they're amazing one week, then the next. In my opinion, they're nothing like what they were the week before. Tommy's coming back is a big boost, because they can, go long if they need to. He can hold the ball up, and they can get like some Malik Wilkes around him to finish off the chances. I do fancy a Hull win in this one. I'll go for a 2-0 win.
2 more games that we're going to discuss on Matchday Live. The first one is Crewe versus Sunderland. Just quickly, Gary, I mean, Sunderland could move into the top 3. Again, it's as if results go their way. But I said Ipswich looks unthinkable that they could drop out of the top half of the table. It's almost unthinkable that Sunderland could propel themselves into the top 3.
It is, but look, Sunderland, like Ipswich, have got a very good squad. Unlike Ipswich, they've now got a manager who I think the squad want to play for and have some respect for as well. He gets the best out of them. I mean, imagine Phil Parkinson didn't play McGeady. He was loaning him out. And we saw in the EFL Trophy semi-final what danger McGeady is. If you've got assets, you use those assets. And Lee Johnson's doing that very, very well. Charlie White's in great form. On the other hand, got a lot of respect for David Artell at Crewe. We've seen him from the early days. I remember us going there in League One, in League Two, thrashing them 4-1 at their place. And then they came to our place later in the season and beat us 4-1. And you could just see what he was trying to do. He's got very good young players there. He's got them playing a really nice brand of football. He's an unsung hero in terms of management in League One, David Artell. He's somebody that should be mentioned in the same breath as Michael Appleton and Ryan Lowe.
Just finally, Ben, before we let you get off this afternoon, Portsmouth versus Gillingham. Now, Pompey had a big win, didn't they, against Oxford the other day? It was a narrow victory, but they got it 1-0. They won. But they have lost their last 2 games at home. Which way do you see this one going?
Well, Portsmouth and Gillingham, I think Gillingham have been quite a bit of a bogey team for Portsmouth in recent years. Obviously, I remember Gillingham going to Fratton Park a couple of years ago. Tommy scored an unbelievable volley. They won 2-0. I remember a couple of seasons ago, I think they lost either 2-0 or 3-0 at Priestfield, and he came to Fleetwood and beat us 5-2. So I do fancy a Portsmouth win, but it's going to be tight. Steve Evans makes it difficult. You know, he likes to make it difficult for the opponent. He likes to be, you know, a bit cautious and try and nick something at these bigger grounds. I'll go 1-0 Portsmouth.
There you go, 1-0 Portsmouth. Ben, great to have you on the show. Can we book you in for Tuesday night as well? Fleetwood is right on the horizon, isn't it? You can take us through the starting 11.
Top man, mate, yeah. And it's going to be an interesting one. But at the moment, I only fancy Lincoln for a win, unfortunately.
And that's why you're so popular with the Lincoln City fans, Ben.
Thanks, mate. See you later.
Cheers, Ben.
That's Ben from Cod's Vlogs, but he knows his. I mean, he's a big Fleetwood Town fan, but he certainly knows his League One stuff. Gary, we've got about 3 minutes left to go. Cornell has raised a very good point, and don't worry, we will be talking about him. What about Remy Howarth signing a new contract with the Imps? Gary, we've talked about Anthony, we've talked, of course, about Michael as well, but Remy signing a new deal is brilliant news. Yet another player that's been rewarded for really hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think hard work was mentioned by Michael in part of the reason for him being awarded a contract. I think Remy seized his opportunity, and Michael clearly respects that. But it's not just about hard work. He's not the clubman of the year type that, you know, gets a trophy for turning up like I used to be. He's a valuable member of the squad. He scored a couple of goals for us this season. He played a key role all the way through to the semi-final. I seem to remember him scoring in one of the wins. Might have been Mansfield, might have been Shrewsbury. Got the goal against Burton as well. So you've got it's a squad game, football. You would probably say Remy isn't an automatic starter. He's one that's knocking on the door. But I would rather have him on the bench today than a whole gaggle of defensive players, because he does offer you a little bit of versatility in the forward areas. He can play anywhere across the front three. So it's nice. It's good. It's good to see him putting pen to paper for a new deal.
We chatted to Tom Hopper, didn't we, the other day as well? Tom, he said it himself that his Wigan goal was the favourite one that he scored so far this season. That was obviously away at Crewe. We love seeing that Alan Shearer celebration. You mentioned that he's Gary Lineker-esque last week as well. He enjoyed that comparison. What will you be expecting from Tom this afternoon, knowing what you know about Plymouth and what we've discussed about the Plymouth defence this afternoon?
Well, it's more defending from the front, isn't it? I say so many times that Tom Hopper is our first line of defence, and he works so unbelievably hard up front. If we do get penned in, he's got to be the out ball. He's got to be the player looking to hold the ball up. I think Tom, more than anybody else, every fan, every player will be looking at Callum Morton going, "Come on, lad, get fit." Because, you know, there are times where at the last 20 minutes, he looks absolutely shattered, but he never, ever stops. What I really like about Tom as well is how he's developed over the course of the season, and probably over the course of since arriving at Sincil Bank. You know, people forget he had a really bad injury in running up to moving to Lincoln. He was out for 10 months before only just coming back. So he's had a personal journey that we've only caught the end of. I think we saw earlier in the season, in beginning, just to settle into the way that we were playing. But for me now, you know, he's a key member of the side, and I think it's telling that going into the transfer window, lots of fans were saying, got to sign a striker, we've got to sign a number 9. We came out of the transfer window, we hadn't signed a number 9. Very few people complained. That's how well Tom Hopper's done since Christmas.
Now, Gary Hutchinson is normally quite bashful about his correct predictions, but he's been rather celebratory about them on this afternoon's Matchday Live. So no pressure, Gary. What are you going for this afternoon?
I'd like to abstain because, if I'm brutally honest, I don't think we'll get anything today. I really want to be proven wrong. I don't want to get a label as a pessimist. I think it's a massive afternoon. If we come away with a draw, that'll be a superb result. The
AGM was on Thursday, Gary. You can't be abstaining on Matchday Live.
Okay, I'll go for a draw then, Sam, seeing as you've pushed me. And feel that I'm a letdown, because I told her on our walk this morning that I thought we'd get beat. She said, "You've got to say that on Matchday Live." I'm not saying that. I'll get pelters.
There you go. Honesty is what we like on this show. Gary, great to see you. Great to have you on the show as ever. Thanks very much for your insight. And we'll see you on Tuesday night, I should say, when the Imps take on Fleetwood.
Smashing. Thanks, Sam.
Thoughts of Gary Hutchinson there. StaceyWest.net for all things Lincoln City related. Podcast as well, available on all the usual places. If you go to www.weareimps.com/iFollow, you can get your match pass now. All the build up, either from BBC Radio Lincolnshire or the local service as well. You can listen to. Fingers crossed the Imps can get back to the top of the League One table. Do enjoy the game. Bye for now.